Hello. I am making a video for my friends Mary and Jana, two artists that have long time taken off their Earthian space suit, which is the body, okay? And that includes the head and the brain and everything. They took that all off and they went all the way back to the Horsehead Nebula and beyond. And maybe they have come back in a different form. But I want to show them, those souls and everyone, my art opening day, vernissage day of Alien Spaceship 6. It is completed. Ta 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 ta. The computer is heavy, but I want to show it anyway. Ta 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 ta. It is completed and it is gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. And I am hanging this into that corner, into the corner next to the window, the corner of the dining room, up high under the ceiling. That's where I'm hanging this here today. And then I will install the astronaut, the alien astronaut, into it. The alien astronaut is in the shelf, as you can see, next to the perfume bottles. That is the alien astronaut. It is big because I used a baby powder bottle, an empty one. And I used the rest of my Scoopy and I made eyes for it that stick out to the side. And that Scoopy is not hardened in the oven because that would melt the plastic of the bottle. I just left it like this and painted over it. And it doesn't matter if it stays kind of soft like this, doesn't matter. It holds its shape. So, tongue breaker. It holds its shape. And I'm going to tape it with duct tape loosely into the Alien Spaceship 6. I already figured out approximately where to glue this in on several sides of that bottle, because now the bottle is really lopsided in weight. So if I lay it on the side, it will go down towards the eyes and the other part will pop up because it's unevenly weighted because of the clay that is molded on the top. But that doesn't matter, it's all good like this, but that alien has to go into this spaceship eventually. That's what I'm going to do. You see, my shelves are filling up with art formations. Yes, cardboard boxes mainly. Sometimes I have like those kids' coffee jars that are made out of aluminum and cardboard, the round jars that I painted. So then the blue god, I made some kind of tray with that to hold some stuff like duct tape. And the other boxes, they are all sealed, closed, with masking tape and duct tape, and then painted over. And this one there in the shelf, the green one on the bottom, is alien eggs. I have an egg carton taped on the top, and then I put some jelly stuff like caulking material that is transparent on the top. I painted it partly over. It looks very interesting. And then the one on the bottom, it was mainly red and some light blue. That's a recent artwork that I made, was the infinity sign and hearts. Those are the hearts that I make. I make the hearts always like kind of squishy. I like that. So I want to make sure that the chair does not touch that wall because of OCD with those shelves. So I am not showing Paul. So I have to make sure that this doesn't touch anything. Okay. You have to be very sure of that because of the OCD avoidance. So because the people that lived here in this house before us were smokers. I mean, not the one that lived before us, but the people that lived before her in this house. And she didn't care about she didn't clean all of this up very well. We cleaned it up, but I still have OCD. So there may be still particles of cigarettes in it. And I have unbelievable OCD with cigarette particles. Unbelievably bad. If I see the neighbor with the glowing rod walking past his house, or sometimes he walks around with a glowing rod, I don't know where he walks, to the liquor store or something. When I see that, I have to shake myself. And I have to do this. I have no other choices. Oh my gosh, it's bad. When we lived in Shoshone, California, it's a small community, with a warm spring pond, warm spring pool in a trailer park where we stayed with the motorhome. Stayed there for several months. After we sold the house in LA, we lived there for several months, and also in Tecopa. Tecopa has a lot of hot springs. Shoshone has a warm spring. And that was a long time before internet and all of this, like Facebook video chat for free and all of that beautiful stuff that came much later. So, but in the beginning, I had to talk to my mother on a payphone, on a public payphone, where other people with cigarette glowing rods have stood and held the receiver against their head, where there's cigarette ashes and particles glued to their hair and ear, and that got onto the receiver. And that's how I had to actually make an appointment with my mother, because I couldn't afford to pay the money for that payphone. She had to call me on that payphone. I had to give her the number at a specific time of the day and a specific day. And, oh, my mother is calling, I have to be at the payphone. And then I would use that payphone, but later wash my hair really good and my ear and all of that. But but there would always be biker guys coming over, and they would be hanging out in this some kind of rest area with benches that was there not far from the payphone, unfortunately. And those biker guys would come there with their Harley Davidsons, and then they would rest there and eat some snack or something, And then they would pull out the glowing rod, to my absolute horror, as I am talking to my mother on the phone. And then I would go, would it be possible that you could just not smoke right now while I'm talking to my mother on the phone? Because I'm on a long distance phone call here, and it is miserable for me to put up with the cigarette. And I'm making a video. 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 He's looking like, now, which boyfriend, which one of the 10 haters are you flirting with right now? I'm not flirting with anyone. I'm flirting with my camera here, okay? And I don't mean to flirt. So anyway, this is how I always talk. Yeah, this is my normal way of. I'm very bubbly, and I laugh about myself all the time, also when nobody is looking. So I also laugh about myself. So yeah, that was always not very nice. Those biker guys, they would get very pissed at me for saying that. They take that very personally. And it was just a miserable era worldwide. It was a miserable era, Stone Age era. So now we have made some accomplishment. I'm not showing you. Not showing. You can walk by. I'm not showing you. I'm serious. It's ridiculous. That is so ridiculous. Make sure the chair does not touch. But anyway, my art is my lifesaver, you know. And Mary and Jana, they know that. Mary Maloney and Jana Lynn, they know that. Because they were artists themselves. So, let me start with Mary. Both of them were in primal therapy. Okay, I mentioned this yesterday in my video, that primal therapy, the way it was conducted, is, I wouldn't say it is the cause of some people's death, but the way it was conducted, they made a lot of mistakes. But they didn't make these mistakes deliberately, and it wasn't even made recklessly. Those were mistakes that happen I would say, in any therapy program where they are trying to help people that are struggling with really, really debilitating mental illness and depression and suicidal thoughts. As Mary, Jana, Elsa also, from France, she's still alive, and myself have been struggling with, and we all have been at the center. So, very difficult, with suicide attempt and so on. I'm gonna start. So, Mary and Jana both committed suicide. Mary did that during primal therapy while she was at the center. And Jana several years after she had left the center. So, that's why, one cannot say, someone who wants to blame primal therapy for these kind of things. They will do it. They will see it that way, like Paul sees it that way. I don't view it that way at all. But I recognize that they have made mistakes at the center, and very specific mistakes that can be avoided. We can learn from those mistakes. If people are willing to learn, if they are willing to let go of the ego and let go of that, the jealousy, whatever, clinging to the other person, or this, this jealousy kind of tension and connection, let go of that, but not in the sense of like suppress it or try to avoid it, because then we're not letting go at all. Let go of the other person. That is my message, really, So letting go of the other person. I'm not going to mention any names now with this, but there was jealousy involved with some of the therapists, and there were issues, and there were triggers and so on. And then if the therapists, like I said yesterday, if the therapists are not dealing with that right then and there, then, and I have at that time too, like I made a video about this, I think last summer I talked about this, made a video reflecting back on the time when I was jealous of someone, and because I was jealous, I did not help that girl get that man, that rich guy that I had a crush on. I could have, he didn't want me, he wanted her, but I wasn't helpful. I could have helped her with that. I could have helped both of them. They were both too shy to make contact with each other. So I could have helped them, but I didn't because of my jealousy. So I didn't owe them anything, but that's what I would do today, even if I have a crush on that person, even if I think that maybe I stand some kind of chance with him, but if I see that he has a crush on her, then my goodness, then he should go for her and she should go for him, right? And so, but that's like, that's not, I wasn't a therapist, and that's not even something that a therapist or anyone should or must do, like play the marriage matchmaker or something. So no, but I would have done it now because I'm a giver, so I would have done that now. But the therapists, they had much more responsibility. When they have an issue like this emotionally that is unresolved with some client, now that becomes a dangerous situation, very dangerous, when the therapist is not disclosing, when the therapist is not talking about her issues, with the other girl or whatever, or whoever these people are. I'm not showing you. So the issues, the emotional issues, when there are issues between people, like when there's some kind of tension of triggering going on, that has to be resolved, that has to be at least addressed. That must be addressed before the therapist can even try to be the therapist for that day. Okay, so obviously the therapist is then in some kind of crisis in that moment and cannot help that person. So that has to be, first of all, addressed, that has to be dealt with, and then probably not, the therapist is probably not capable that very day of helping or assisting that other person in any way. So that's why we have to have these open groups, therapy sessions from 5 to 8. This is a good time, before people go and eat dinner and so. We can also eat dinner together, Every community can create something like this. An open therapy help center where there is a group therapy every day from 5 to 8 for anyone who wants to attend, okay? For every community. If there may be too many people, then people will have to create another facility for it, okay, in the same community. Then have 2 facilities, or have 2 districts within that community, like one on each end of the community, and then have half of the community go to one center and the other to the other. So just to evenly distribute the numbers of people and the space you have in that facility. Obviously, there cannot be too many people, because then there's no way anyone can really be seen or heard. We have to keep this within a manageable amount of people, so that the staff of helpers and therapists can be really there for every single person, particularly for those people that are in a crisis or that have an issue going on at the current moment. And it's very important to address that. Some people would end up cutting themselves if they don't get that help, and this is happening all over the world. Or people that are in a crisis, that are contemplating suicide. They need to have immediate attention. They need to be dealt with. They need to be held. They need to have someone hold them in their arms. They need someone to hold their hand. And sometimes that's all that's necessary. Okay? And the person will immediately start crying. There was a group of Hollywood people, Hollywood actors, at the Primal Center, because Art Janoff and his wife Franz, they were friends with a lot of movie producers. And there was this one guy, I forgot the name now, he was conducting a musical type of movie with singing and stuff like that. And the subject was primal therapy, and he was very good friends with Art Janoff, and so they came to the center, they attended the classes, they also checked out the group therapy, so they would learn a little bit about it, and then actors would play certain roles. Actually, I'm not going to mention any names now, because some of these people are known and they do not want me to blab this all out. But I understand, okay? So, but there was this Oriental girl. I hadn't seen her before in movies. Maybe she was new, she was very young, and she was playing a role there, and she had some kind of problem and some kind of fight. They were triggering each other, she and the movie producer and the staff, or she didn't agree with something, and she ended up in the bathroom, and she was very, very upset, looking down, and very upset. And I happened to go to the bathroom, and I said to her, "What's going on? I see you're very upset." I put my hand on her shoulder and just rested my hand on her shoulder, on her arm, and I said, "I'm here for you, I'm sorry that you are upset." And she started crying really deeply. So that gave her this little bit of comfort and friendship, and allowed her to release that tension and let her cry. I know that in the Oriental communities, they are not that easy with the tears. So they hold a lot of emotions in, they bottle a lot of emotions up. So that made me feel good that I was able to help this Oriental girl. But then later on, I saw this very famous actor lady, my age. We were about 26 at that time, 26 or 27, something like that. And my parents know her parents even. Oh my goodness, this is such a long story. So, but she was there, and I started to get jealous. Not good. My therapist, Esther Odermatt, was there, and she saw that with dread. I'm going up to that actor lady, and I saw her later in the Outer Limit film. I went on, and I felt very embarrassed just thinking about that day at the center. I go up to her and I said to her, and you are only playing this. You are not even feeling this. You are not even in this, in this, in these dreadful emotions and going through this. You're just playing it. You lucky guys. You lucky people. She didn't respond. She just smirked a little bit. And Esther said to me in German, Nicola, that's just an actor. And I said, yes, that's precisely what I was talking about. And she lured me out of there. So, well, there were my emotions again. So I can be helpful sometimes, but then on another day, I'm not helpful. I'm quite maybe even kind of destructive or detrimental for someone. You know, if I'm jealous, or if I feel wronged, or if I feel like, why do I have to suffer from this in reality and they don't, and they get paid for this, for playing that and all of that, you know, it's all ridiculous. So yeah, I didn't like the actors there. They were vibing differently. Trust me on that one. They were vibing so differently. But then later I found out that the girl she was playing that role, and she was playing it so well, and she's obviously a very good actor. So she went into that role, and then her own feelings did come up while she was playing that. So now that I have to say, respect there, you know. So maybe she thought about what I said, because that was much later after I said that she probably thought about, I better now really dive into this role to prove this girl wrong, you know. So that I'm not just an actor, I am really feeling this, and I got my own stuff, trust me, you know. So like, to make a statement with this, but not just a statement. I mean, she was really feeling something that came up from the past. I'm not going to get into the details, but you know, that just again also shows me that the whole world has been traumatized. You know, it doesn't matter who that is. That could be an actor, that could be a construction worker, could be a Buddhist, a Christian, a monk, a bishop, a gardener, a sex worker. It doesn't matter who these people are. They have been traumatized. Almost everyone has been traumatized by their parents or caregivers or classmates or teachers or society, or religious figures that they trusted. It's going on worldwide all the time. The human species is very sick, and Arthur Janov said that also, you know. So Arthur Janov said religion is psychosis institutionalized, and that's very true. So I respect him very deeply. Okay. And I sent him my love. You know, he's taken his spacesuit off at this just a few months after Annalise. So they were both very old, and I respect all of them very deeply. Okay, they were on the right track there. Okay. They were on the right vibrational track. They were on the track of, yes, we dive into this. We dive into this no matter what anyone thinks. No matter whether this is en vogue or fashionable or unfashionable or dorky or whatever it is regarded, or outdated. That's a nice try of the corporate agenda to make people think something is outdated. I was petitioning for the whales in LA in front of stores. And people would come up to me and say, "Isn't petitioning for the whales outdated?" It's like, I don't even remember what I said. I didn't even know what to say. I think I said, this is a very serious issue, and the whales are dying and they're bleeding internally to death because of active sonar. And then people would finally get more serious. But I should have said, is love outdated? That's what I should have said. Seriously, is love outdated? It never will be. Okay, so that's a fact. Love is love, and it is always fresh and always important and always urgent. And the vibration of love is that inwardness process. When I know I'm jealous, I let go of that other person. I let off. Okay, I disconnect that psychological tension, and I go into my own mind. And that's all I can do, no matter what that other person is doing. She could be stripping in front of a bunch of guys that I like. Let her do it, okay? I sit here, I go into the other room, I go at the end of the room, sit on the couch, and I go into my own mind. I wish her well, and I will not mock, I will not get into sarcasm, I will not get into some kind of snippiness or snarliness or cattiness, okay, which I see a lot of fundamentalist women do. It's not good, don't do that. So a lot of people do that. That's still a clinging to that other person. That's just an act out, that's all it is. Sit with what comes up. Jealousy, it feels really gnarly. Trust me, it really is not a very good feeling. And I sit with it. That's all I can do. I can't control the other people. I cannot keep two people separated. That's ridiculous to even try that. So I sit with it. I go into my own mind. And if self-pity, which, corporate agenda, religion has drilled into us that thou shalt not have self-pity or jealousy, really bad movement, okay? Question this. You have self-pity and you have jealousy. So just acknowledge it. It won't go anywhere even if you tell yourself you don't have it. So it's not going to go anywhere. Most people have it off and on. Okay, so go into it, allow it, sit with it, and feel it through, and cry through it. Let the self-pity really well up, and cry it out. It's okay. There's nothing wrong with it. Nothing wrong with jealousy. Cry it out. Just don't be stuck in it. If you act it out, you stay stuck in it. If you go into resistance, it doesn't go anywhere. It stays in that vibrational form. It stays in the brain. So you have to cry it out. You have to acknowledge it, and not in the way of, I'm going to cry it out now and then it's gone. That's another act out. So that's just another belief. You have to just sit with it and not do anything about it, in the sense of, I have to do something about it. So no, you don't do anything about it. It's there. You feel it. And if tears come up, it's wonderful. If tears don't come up, it's okay too. Just practice this every day. Sit with this for at least an hour every day on your office chair or couch. Let that stuff run through the brain. That's the inwardness meditation. That is the vipassana meditation, okay? Really, or samadhi. You sit with it and you feel. It's not transcendental. Okay, transcendental is good too, but that's a different tool. That can be applied for other things, not for inwardness. The inwardness is sit with that what is, whatever it is, the way that the chair feels under your butt, the fly on the wall, the sunbeams coming through feels good. Thoughts that are coming up, memories, associations, let it come through, let it be. Okay, don't fight it. Okay, just sit with it and accept it. Someone can say, "Oh, he doesn't like me." Okay, he doesn't like me, so I sit with it and not have some kind of hope that he may like me in the future. Hope has to completely go into the trash can or into the compost. Okay, so I think it was Jana who said hope is dope. I think it was him. That's the truth. He was cool. He was really cool. And it's the truth. Hope. It's like hope keeps us in suspense. Keep in this suspense of anticipation, and if I just try harder I can gain this or this. No. That's a struggle. That's a strive that doesn't go anywhere. That's resistance. Whatever you're striving for, money or boyfriend or this or that, it's resistance. Okay, you have to get out of the resistance. Esther Hicks talks about this. It's very important information. She's very much on the same bandwagon with Arjanov. I don't even know if she knows about Arjanov, but it vibes in the same direction. Very much so. You have to let go, you have to feel it. That's the feeling process, not some kind of acting it out or reacting or trying or pretending to cry or pretending to let anger or whatever. I've seen it all at the center. People would be reacting stuff and think that they're feeling it, but they are not. Or like they have this idea, I paid like $80 for the group session, now I have to get my money's worth and I have to react the shit out of this. And nothing comes out of it, I've seen it all. So, and that's where the therapist has to step in and say, bro, you're reacting. You are acting something out here. You're not in the feeling zone. You're not in that mental state of there is no hope for this or that. And I accept that there is no hope to get the Ferrari or the Camaro Stingray, okay, or whatever people are hoping for. So sit with it. I will never have a Camaro Stingray in my life, and this is actually the truth. And I am so happy about that. I could celebrate with you. I can celebrate with you for the rest of my life. For never ever going to have a Camaro, Stingray, or Ferrari in my life. And I never have to sit in one of those. Someone asked me to go on a ride in a Camaro Stingray. Oh my goodness. I made excuses why I couldn't. That made that guy so mad that he kicked us out of there. That was after we moved into the motorhome. We stayed at a friend's house in Fernando Valley for a few days, and because I didn't go into the Camaro Stingray and go on a night cruise with him, he kicked us out the next day. I'm glad he didn't kick us out that very night. So I guess it bothered him all night long, and then he had to kick us out. And we had stuff stored there in lockers in his backyard, and he kicked us out of there, and we weren't even finished organizing our stuff. But now I can look back on it and I understand understand what was going through his head. I didn't understand it back then. I just thought he thinks we are deplorably ugly, awful. Okay. So, yeah, now I understand it. He wanted a companionship thing, at least for a night. At least it kind of like a pretense. He has a girl in the Camaro Stingray who adores his car and him. So, oh man, he didn't understand who I am at all. I've never liked this. I never understood it. I hung out with rock and roller guys in Germany, and they were like, I need to have a Camaro Stingray one day. And they were driving an old Chevrolet, one of those really huge boxes. And I drove that car a few times because I was not as drunk as they were. So, and it was kind of fun because the seat was kind of bouncy, was automatic. In Germany, we only had stick shift cars. And this was an import from the United States. But, I can celebrate with you forever for never ever getting a Camaro Stingray. But for other people, it's exactly reverse. And for those, I have this trick here. You sit on the couch and you say to yourself, I will never have a Camaro Stingray. And you can stomp your foot on the ground while you say it. And you can even punch the couch one time. I let you do that one time. But only if there's no animal on the couch. So, or in the room. Okay. And then you have to say, I will never have this frickin' Camaro Stingray for the rest of my life. And this lady there is celebrating it with cake, and I am crying my eyes out. And it's good, okay? So do that. Say that to yourself, okay? In that moment, just don't have this anticipation, what if I struggle, or what if I work for the corporate agenda and debunk Donald Trump? Then one day I can buy a Camaro Stingray. No. No. Not on cost of peace on earth. Okay, seriously. No, really not. But that's what people are doing, okay? And that's why it is so necessary that the mafiosi sits on the couch and comes to grips with reality. Mafiosi that dropped out of junior high school because it's all too boring for him. He wants the Camaro Stingray now, okay? Not wait later, not go to college or university. No, he wants. I've seen all of this. I've been with people like that. I've been with the Turkish boy, and I said, you need to go back to school. Okay, you dropped out of junior high school. You need to go back to school. So I'm not incriminating myself. I was a teenager too. Okay, so, at least in my head. No. I was very much a teenager. My mental state. So, yeah, he was younger, but he was the one who came on to me. So, long time gone, statute of limitation over. But anyway, I'm not going to admit anything. So, but anyway, I met him at the hospital. We both had a fibularis outer band rupture. So, but he was sweet. I mean, he was really cute and everything. But he was very hungry, and I was, because of my teenage mind immaturity, I could not go for someone who was too hungry for me. So that wouldn't work. Then maybe my emotional pain would come up, and I'm not in a struggle with anyone. So that's another thing that Jana was talking about. He says we practice repetition compulsion. We want to be in a struggle with someone, with some romantic other half or whatever, or significant other. Okay? And we don't want someone who is easy to get or who is there for us, because then we're not in the struggle. We want to recreate the struggle. That's really bad. So that's why I broke up with him, and I feel sorry about that. But before I broke up, I said several times to him, you need to go back to school. You need to, for your own sake, for your own life. You need to study, you need to go to college, you need to go to university. And he said, no, I want to make money. He was working at the car mechanic shop. And he wants the Camaro Stingray now. Okay, yeah. Then he is just on the path of self-sabotage. That is what he's on. Okay, so then I met another guy who wanted a Camaro Stingray. I don't know why they all want Camaro Stingrays. I guess it's those kind of guys that were drawn to me. That's weird, is that, huh? But anyway, that guy was studying electrotechnics at the university, and he took me over there one time, and none of that made any sense to me because I'm like totally not into it. And I didn't see any woman there at all. They were all guys. And he was driving a small sports car, convertible, and he said he wants to get the bigger car. And okay, so you deserve the Camaro Stingray if you study electrotechnics for 8 years at the university and you get your dissertation and your doctorate's degree. Then okay, then you're allowed. But then maybe you meet people where you change your mind, like maybe I should get a Mercedes-Benz instead. No, better a Tesla. Okay, so you'll change your mind because you meet different people. And you have different peer pressure. Okay, so the peer pressure is always bad, but at least if the fashion dictates environmentalism, then it serves some purpose, some good purpose. Yeah, so the mafiosi man has to sit on the couch. He has no other choice, and he has to, if he wants to pursue a real goal for his life. A real goal is not robbing a bank or pimping out women, okay? No, or pushing drugs on teenage girls, okay? No. A real goal is you work in a job with a real purpose. It may not be comfortable in the beginning, but if you have a goal in mind, you see your goal and you know what you have to do to the path that you have to walk on to get towards that goal. You may have to work at the Ritz-Carlton cleaning toilets for a year. Okay? Trust me, you will be very grateful for that advice if you follow through with this. And then you have a little bit of a savings. If you don't spend the money on hookers and drugs and alcohol, okay? So that's another thing that is absolute. If people just waste their money, then how can they even value that money? How can they even so how can they even value the money if they just live from paycheck to paycheck and spend it all in 1 month, okay? Or even borrow money from the mafias? That's not going anywhere. It's not sustainable. You have to completely change your lifestyle. I know this all now, okay? So I've been through a lot in my life. I have made a lot of mistakes. I have been drinking alcohol until 25. That's when I quit all of that. Cigarettes, alcohol, and drugs, and anything. Speed, like ephedrine, hydrochloride, diet pills, shit like that. And I didn't do it very often, but I think I did it about 10 times. And that's not good. Quaaludes with alcohol, not good. No, you say crazy shit when you're on that. So that's for sure. And even with punk people surrounding you, they're like, oops, what is that lady all about? I mean, is that some kind of alien from outer space? So, no, I mean, it's not, I don't recommend it. So, no, you have to completely straighten out your life. Danny, every one of you. Okay, so you have to straighten out your life. You have to become really crystal clear in the head. I mean, this is not something that someone just tells you. You have to really know it. You have to really feel the fact. You have to quit the alcohol, the drugs, the cigarettes, any kind of pharma drug. You have to quit meat, particularly cows and pigs. This is an atrocity, and it doesn't do you any good. It just makes you sick. Okay, it clogs up your body, makes you fat, and all of that. So, and that stores animal fat into your fat cells. That's not good. That's nasty. Okay, it's just all the way wrong. Okay, it doesn't serve the greater good. It just makes being suffer. It's just unethical and totally unhealthy. The whole thing is wrong. Straighten out your life, okay, and drink tea and ignore what other people say. It doesn't matter what other people say. So, but now I'm always fanning out from the main subject. Always. But all of this is important. So I want to talk about the girls now. So Mary, she was an artist and she drew horses and people just like Leonardo da Vinci. And maybe, think about this right now, maybe she was the reincarnation of Leonardo da Vinci. That could very well be. Okay. We come back in different forms to experience things firsthand, because that's really the way we learn. You know, we learn the hard way. Danny probably too. You know, on your deathbed, when you have wasted your life with drugs, and I don't know at what stage of your life that will be. Don't make it sooner than later. Okay, I mean, you end up at some point, and maybe you find yourself so sick, maybe you can't function anymore. Then you think again what I said. So don't bring it to that stage. Don't make it where now it's almost impossible for you to change anything. You're still young. When you're 30, you can change your course. You can introspect and reflect over things, and you can look into the future, and you can ask yourself, is this how I want to continue my path into the future? How am I going to look like in 10 years or 20 years or 30 years? How is my life going to be? Okay, who am I then? How do I walk through life, literally? You know? Do you drag yourself through life, huffing and puffing with maybe an oxygen tank on your back? The people across the street, for example, you know, a whole lifetime of alcohol and nicotine. That guy, he could not lift that piano. And he's about my age. I can lift the piano much better than he. He couldn't even try. So, don't do it. That's just loving advice from Grandma Trailer Park. Okay, so take my advice. So Mary, she was my age. We were about 27. And she reminded me of Katja, a friend of mine, my best friend, one of my best friends in Germany. And Mary was involved. I talked about her before in my videos a long time ago. And she was in a loving romantic relationship with Sophie from France. And they were living together. And at some point, Sophie broke up with her in a very cruel way in group therapy. And she said, I've had enough of this playing your mother and filling your needs. I need to be on my own now. And I mean, she had to talk about it because it was important for her. I'm not blaming her or anything. But it was brutal for Mary, very brutal. And nobody helped Mary, no one helped her. And I wasn't at the center at that time. They had kicked me out because I wasn't willing to take the pharma drugs, that's an atrocity by itself. Who are they to dictate to people to take pharma drugs? My goodness. So they had the psychiatrist there on board even. I mean, all of this is not the holistic path. Sorry. That's not how a therapy center should be conducted. There's a lot of issues with primal therapy that I can pull up and that need to be inspected and talked about, and that need to be worked out. Okay, all of these issues. But they're not going to change. No, they're in Santa Monica. No, they're not going to change. They're not going to listen to my advice. So I have to create my own therapy process, and that will be the revised version of primal therapy, but not primal therapy, but something new, something that was born out of primal therapy, something that is carrying it on in a better way. And that is really what Jana's intention is, not to be stagnated in something that is full of flaws and doesn't work. So I was still in LA, and a friend of mine came over, and she told me Mary hung herself in her apartment in Venice Beach. And I was so shocked that when the lady left, I was lying on my bed. I couldn't even get up. I was lying on my bed, staring on the wall for an hour. Just staring on the wall. I couldn't even cry. Just staring on the wall, looking at every nuance of the wallpaper and the indentations and all of that. And I thought, if I had been there at that time, if I was at the center, if I had been in that group session, I could have helped Mary. I would have taken her into my apartment. I would have done everything to help her through this. And that's the truth. I feel infinitely sorry, Mary. Leonardo da Vinci. So that's infinitely sad. So, and when I create a therapy, these things are not going to happen. Okay. So if we see something serious happening in group session, someone's breaking up officially with someone else, and that other person sits there literally floored and can't even cry, just with a frozen facial expression, that's the time when the helpers and the therapists have to go over there and sit with that person and hold that person's hands. And I remember one guy at the center, one therapist at the center, when I was new there, I couldn't even go up on the stage and talk. I was too afraid. And he came over and he put his hand on my shoulder that day. And I really appreciate that. Thank you for that. So that's the gestures that are absolutely necessary. Very simple gestures of love and compassion. Okay, so that is therapy. Okay, so it's not that complicated, all of it. It's actually very straightforward and simplistic. But when people are in their own shit, when they're in their own emotions, how can they see the other? How can they see Mary sitting there with a frozen face? How can they see the gravity of this situation? How can they understand it when they are in their own jealousy and their feelings and so on? They don't take it. They don't listen to the warning signs and all of that. What a horror. And she left a note for a therapist. And she said, I wished you had been here. That would have made it easier for me to do this. Horrible. That was a real blow to the whole center, to everyone. That was a shock for everyone. So, and also when Len died from a heroin overdose, that was a shock too. And then several people later on who had left the center later on, many years later, Birgit and Jana and Annalise, but not necessarily because of primal therapy, of course, But, in the case of Mary, yeah, people should have been there for her. They should have held her hand. They should have brought her into their house, sleep on the couch there, and be there for her for several months until she gets better, until she gets back on her feet. So that is what's necessary. Very important. I mean, it goes to the point of hospitalization, or at least, having someone in the house and taking care of that person. So very, very important. I would have done that if I'd seen this happening in the group session. I would have gone right over there and sat with her and held her. And if I had done that, she would have been able to cry. And right there would have been a release of this tension, of this enormous abandonment feeling that was probably, most likely, dogging on to a childhood trauma as well. That's why it is so intense. Okay, when the childhood trauma is there. If you have someone who doesn't have childhood trauma, like Bindi and Robert Irwin, for example, they would never go into a freeze if someone breaks up with them. They would cry right there on the spot. They would cry rivers and rivers and rivers. That will never happen to them because they found the right partners. And they're not going on each other's nerves because they're not triggering each other's trauma because they don't even have a trauma. I bet her husband doesn't even have a trauma. So, and I wish them total happiness forever and ever and ever, and it feels good to see happy people, okay, that there are a few handful of happy people in this world. It's good. I'm jealous, so what? I sit with it, right? I mean, I'm happy for them that they have this. They have everything, everything. They have everything you can possibly wish for. Everything everyone wishes for is what they have, what Bindi and Chandler have. Okay, so, and it's good. Let's be happy. Let's be happy for happy people. Let's acknowledge that they're happy. It's good. Okay, sit with Danny Mafia boy, or whoever you are. Sit with that feeling. Sit with that jealousy, instead of mocking people, instead of bullying people or slandering people or this or that. Sit with it. How does it feel? How does it feel when you see this happy couple? The woman that you want, and she has this guy and they're happy. How does it feel? Okay. How does it feel to your whole body? What emotions are coming up? Do you feel insignificant? Do you feel unseen? Do you feel ignored? Do you feel unimportant? Do you feel rejected? Do you feel abandoned? All of these feelings I'm sure they are all there. Okay. Do you feel ugly, Danny? Or anyone? Anyone? I'm saying Danny because he has and nobody in the world, I mean, of course, you don't know his last name, so I'm not incriminating anyone, and I'm not slandering anyone. So, but if people are spying on my computer, they kind of avoid this confidentiality, okay, in that way, So, you all know each other, unless this is all one person, but I think there are several people and they know each other and they all function the same way. They're all pimps and they're all drug pushers, okay? And robbing banks and doing internet fraud all the time, non-stop, like 24 hours per day on bath salts. Okay? And then, I have to say something, I see that and I say, what a tragedy, what a horror, what a miserable life. Okay? And I want to help, I want to give good advice. Sit with that. You're doing all of this because you're trying to be important, you're trying to run away, you're trying to be macho, you're trying to be badass. This is the whole concept of badass is such a twisted emotion. Okay? So sit with this on the couch. You're not going to get a woman if you're a total jerk, okay? The woman you want doesn't want a total jerk. I'm not talking about me, I'm talking about in general. The type of woman you want, does not want a jerk. She doesn't want a man who insults her, okay, and finds fault with her all the time. You do this because of your mental illness. You have to sit with that stuff and go into it. Okay. So now I want to talk about Jana. Jana was an artist also, and she painted with acrylic on canvas, and she painted herself in pain, screaming, crying, sexually abused. Those were her gut paintings, her emotional paintings that she needed to do. Okay. She painted herself as a baby and many paintings like this. And I respect her very, very deeply. I've made a lot of mistakes in the friendship with her. I was jealous. Jealousy, baby, that's not good. But we can't, it's not good to be acting this out. It's not good to be even unaware of it. So that's why it is so important to go into the feelings on the couch and come clean to yourself about how you feel. And feel it out, cry it out. Then you have the chance to be friends with that other person that you're jealous of. Okay, so there were a lot of women jealous of Jana, and including her mother, who has tortured her when she was a child. She told me about this. She talked about this also at the center in group therapy and in classes with Arjanov when he was still there. She talked about this real horrible suffering, like to the degree of the writer David Peltzer, who wrote several books about his childhood with a psychotic mother who tried to burn him on a stove, and many other things like this. I'm not going to get into the details now. He wrote books about this. David Pelzer, what a horrific, tragic childhood. But for some very strange, odd reason, genetic probably, he grew up normal. He ended up in a foster care. His teacher saw that the abuse, brought him to foster care, good foster parents, and he was able to heal those wounds and grew up to be a normal and healthy and wonderful person, good father and everything. So, but for most people, they grow up very troubled and with a lot of anxiety and tension and pain and suffering. And most people grow up then to be violent themselves. So that's just how the genetics funnels the emotional pain. Okay, and that's not good at all. That's the worst. When the pain is funneled into the same act outs as psychopathic parents have done to them, carrying on that same suffering cycle of endless and endless agony, and for generations, that we don't want that to happen. The Blue God agrees. 111. Yes. So Jana had a wonderful boyfriend from France. His name is Christophe, and they met at the center, and they were really made for each other. And I lost contact to them, and then my friend Elsa, like a couple of years, 2 years or so ago, told me on Facebook that Jana had committed suicide, and in the same house where Christophe was, in another room. What a horror. What an absolute horror. She was never able to heal that trauma that her mother had done to her. So I feel infinitely sorry for her and for all of them that have suffered during childhood from parents that are psychotic or criminally insane. So that's why we need therapy help centers. We need to have really, really tight-knitted communities that help everyone and that watch out and look after each other and make sure that you're on the right track. Okay, so you guys take care.